Good evening and welcome to the 2019 Nags Head Board of Commissioners Candidates Forum, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Dare County. I'm Audrey Esposito, coordinator for this forum, but I want to give a hats off to Lorelei DiBernardo along with Sunny Shea, who coordinated all of our Dare forums this year, and there are 6 of them. I'd like to thank all of you as well as the candidates for participating in tonight's event. Since 1920, the League of Women Voters has been an active grassroots organization whose leaders believed that people should play a critical role in democracy. The League of Women Voters was founded by Carrie Chapman Catt in 1920, just 6 months before the 19th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified, giving women the right to vote. We are proud to continue the tradition of bringing candidates and voters together with our forums. Throughout the years, the League has continued its dual purposes of education and advocacy, engaging in studies on representative government, international relations, natural resources, and social policy. Our history of advocacy goes back to the beginning, and we in Dare County will be celebrating, along with leagues across the country, our 100th anniversary in 2020. And there will be a series of events that we are planning here in Dare County throughout the year: lectures, movies, social fun, panel discussions, and we really would invite you all to attend, learn more about the League and what we do, and learn more of what's going on with our democracy. I would now like to introduce the moderator for this evening, Tony DiBernardo.
Good evening. I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Dare County. Yes, there are men in the League. Okay. The League is a nonprofit, nonpartisan political organization. It encourages informed and active participation in all levels of government. It works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and it influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League maintains a nonpartisan policy. It neither endorses nor opposes any political party or candidate. The League participates in the Positive Campaign Project and has requested that each candidate take the Code of Campaign Ethic Pledge. We prohibit campaigning or campaign literature in the forum room, and all cell phones and electronic devices should be turned off. Texting is prohibited. We'd appreciate it if you do turn your phones off while this is going on. The League members participating today are the greeters, Lori Williams and Audrey Esposito. The question reviewers are Nancy Birondelli, Glenda Keel, and Fran Kapanos. And our timekeeper is Sunny Shea. We encourage a lively and respectful discussion. If you think of a question during the forum, please raise your hand and one of our staff members will hand you a question card or take you to the bathroom if that's what you needed. The candidates present are, starting from your right, is Keith Sawyer, Renee Cahoon, and Kevin Brinkley. There are 2 commissioner slots, council member slots and commissioner slots available. This is the format that we're utilizing. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for an opening statement. The timekeeper will signal when the candidate has 30 seconds remaining. The timekeeper will stand if the candidate continues past the allotted time. She's very tough, by the way, so I just want to let you know. Next, candidates will respond to questions from the audience. Voters are asked to submit written questions, legibly written and signed with their town of residence. League reviewers will review the questions for clarity, relevance, and to avoid duplication. We believe this procedure affords the greatest variety of subjects to be covered in the allotted time. Questioners will be asked to step to the podium and read their question as written without further comment. The questioner will then be seated and the moderator will continue. I will be calling a second person up at that time, and we put them in a seat back here, so that way we have a quicker flow as one finishes, and then I'll always try to have one person in the chair behind me. The League advocates positive campaign practices and reserves the right to admit any question that is viewed as a personal attack or unrelated to campaign issues. Questions can be addressed to a specific candidate or all the candidates. 2 minutes is allotted for responses. Again, the timer will signal the candidate with 30-second remains and stand if the candidate goes beyond the time allotted. Opportunities will not be extended to those who initially pass on a question. So if somebody passes up here and says, I don't want to answer it, they don't have the opportunity to come back after the other people answered it and say, 1 second thought. That opportunity is not there. Finally, each candidate is entitled to a 2-minute closing statement. Before we started, the candidates drew numbers to establish the order of opening statements. And at the closing statement, what we'll do is reverse that order, except for number 2. Number 2 stuck at number 2. So the opening statement, the order is, it'll be Keith Sawyer, Renee Calhoun, and Kevin Brinkley in that order. So at this point, Mr. Sawyer, you can begin your opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming out this evening. Look forward to talking to each and every one of you at a later time and date. I'd like to say a little bit about myself. My full name is Algan Keith Sawyer, and I go by Keith. I was born and raised and went to school in Columbia, North Carolina, along the Scuppernong River, Albemarle Sound, so waters have been in my life the whole time. My education is Columbia, Frederick Military Academy, Bertie Academy, COA, East Carolina University, NC State, and also General Motors University and Crawford University. I have a vast variety of experience from both the automotive industry, property and casualty, handling claims, and as far as being also a certified EMT for 16 years for Washington County. And that was on a volunteer basis. I was married for roughly 26 years, and my daughter passed away, and I went through a divorce, and at present time, I'm single, and I have a lovely fiance that we've been living together for the past 12 years, and we have our own business here in the Outer Banks, Nags Head. It's an owner services business, and we try to look out for our homeowners and for the citizens and the safety of Nags Head. Someone asked me here a couple of weeks ago, why did I want to run for Nags Head Commissioner seat? I want to represent my community. I want to serve my community in which I live, work, and I enjoy retirement in. I want to look out for the safety and the well-being of our citizens and our community in which we're a part of. We have to also educate, and I'd like to see us get back, the town of Nags Head, get back to its focal point for family and related issues of family. It's not just a tourist attraction here. There's families that live, grow up, and entertain life here, and that's what I'm about. I'm here to represent my community in a very positive and thoughtful and safety way. Thank you.
Ms. Calhoun.
Good evening. My name is Renee Cahoon, and I'm running to be your Nags Head Town Commissioner. Thank you to all that came out this evening, to you at home that are listening and watching, and to each of you that will be watching at a later time. I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this and all the other forums. You provide a valuable service for all of us by promoting open government through informing the public. I'm running to have the opportunity to continue to serve my community. My passion even now is to work hard to make our town better and a good place to live and work. I have been part of a family-owned business in Nags Head for 58 years, and it's now going to another generation, which I'm very happy about. Although I intend to continue to work, it's nice to see another generation that wants to carry on the family legacy. Our town is facing many challenges: climate change, stormwater issues, more and more harsh hurricanes. So we have a lot to work on, and only by working together to strive to find better solutions can we meet these challenges. We have lots of projects in the works, and I would like to continue to have the opportunity to work on those projects. I see former Mayor Edwards out this evening. Good evening, Mayor. We started, even when Mayor Edwards was there, to work on stormwater projects. We're continuing to do those. Through some of the issues I mentioned before with climate change and storms, we are facing a lot of challenges on this barrier island to try to figure out how to deal with our stormwater. I look forward to answering your questions this evening and hope that you participate in your government. Thank you.
Mr. Brinkley.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Kevin Brinkley, and I'm a candidate for Nags Head Commissioner. Just like Mr. Sawyer and Ms. Cahoon, I love Nags Head, and this town has been a part of my life for many years. My family is from Currituck County, and that is where we lived when I was born, but we soon moved to Manteo, and that's where I was raised. In the late 1970s, my grandmother opened a ladies' clothing store in Nags Head by the movie theater on the beach road. And I remember spending my summer days there hanging out while my mother was at work. In the early 80s, Outer Banks Mall opened, and they relocated their shop there. With an arcade and food court, my brother and I had plenty to keep us busy while my mother worked. Just prior to my 14th birthday, I got my first job, and of course, it was in Nags Head. I bussed tables and later waited tables at night for the Bobby family at the Tell the Well restaurant. During the day, I rented jet skis at the old Fin and Feather Motel on the Causeway, and later at the Dock restaurant. Coming from a family of law enforcement officers, I knew what I wanted my career to be, and I knew where I wanted it to be, Nags Head. In 1990, I applied for a police officer position with the Town of Nags Head Police Department and was fortunate enough to be offered a position. I was sent to the Coastal Plains Law Enforcement Training Center in Wilson, North Carolina, and after graduation, I returned to Nags Head as their newest police officer. I had the honor and privilege to serve this great community for 28 years, with the last 9 years as your police chief. I retired last year, and though I am enjoying retirement, I miss working with and for the people of Nags Head as we continue to make this a fantastic place to live, work, and visit. I'm a lifelong public servant and would like to continue doing this as your commissioner. I ask for your support and vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to begin the question section at this point. And I do encourage anybody sitting in the audience to write any question that you want and submit it up here. It's an opportunity at this point to ask questions that you've always thought in the back of your mind and you never brought them forth. Now you can bring them forth, okay? Okay, Ms. Courtney Gallup, would you please come up? You'll be the first.
Good evening, candidates. This question is for all of you. My name is Courtney Gallup, and I'm a resident and business owner in Nags Head. To all the candidates, what should the Board of Commissioners do to address the current overdose epidemic? And should Narcan be supplied in town facilities with town money?
Okay. We will do Ms. Cahoon first.
Thank you, Courtney, for your question. I think we as a community have a drug problem. I think we need to work vigilantly with our police departments and our social services departments to try to fight the epidemic. I think we need to make sure that we provide the resources necessary to our community law enforcement on every level to give them the tools they need to stop and try to fight the drug epidemic. Do I think we need to provide Narcan? Yes, I do. I think while it's a touchy subject, I do believe that the opportunity to save a life is worth the life.
Thank you. Mr. Sawyer?
I appreciate the question. The question of should we support that? Yes, we should. Our social services should be directly involved, as well as our police department, our EMS. It should be in all the police vehicles, as well as the EMS and ambulances and everything, the fire trucks. If they go to a house and they see someone that's had an overdose, yes, most definitely. It's the most important thing to save a life. There's a lot of gratification to saving a life and seeing somebody live to take another breath. To watch somebody take their last breath, it just takes something out of you. So yes, I support that, and we should have it in all of our availability. And we really should stress that we need to go after the drug companies. There needs to be more support that it's an overused item of medication, and somebody needs to get a handle on it. The drug companies are getting away with unseen amounts of funds, and they should be able to fund the funds to us and to the local communities to support that for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brinkley?
Yes, sir. Courtney, thank you for the question. I can tell you firsthand the problems that we have here in Dare County with heroin overdoses and with prescription pills, any opioid derivative. In 2015, our officers were trained in the use and administration of Narcan. I've seen firsthand how this drug works, and it has saved many lives. As far as, I think you had something about the Board of Commissioners, I think the board should support efforts and explore ways of how we can help our community with this epidemic. Do I believe that town funds should be spent? When we first started the program, the kits were donated. They had grant money that was used, other organizations. But yes, I firmly believe that the town should spend the funds for the kits. They're in all of our police cars. So yes, I do think that those funds should be spent that way. Thank you.
Okay. Colleen Almany has the next question. And Courtney, if you want to come up again, you can sit behind me and wait.
Oh my gosh, it'll be the Colleen and Courtney show. So sorry. My name's Colleen Almany, and I am actually a resident of Kill Devil Hills. My question is, if you could implement one change in the town of Nags Head, knowing that money isn't a factor, what change would you make?
Hey, this time, Mr. Sawyer, you can go first.
Would you repeat that question one more time for me, please? Just to make sure I understood what you asked.
Do you want me to ask it again?
It says, if you could implement one change in Nags Head, knowing that money wouldn't be a factor, what would you do? In other words, you got an open purse. What would you do?
Boy, that's a loaded question. If money's no object, we could solve a lot of problems. But that's not always the case. I think one of the first things I would like to see us do is take care of some of the safety issues that we're faced with here in the town of Nags Head. The crosswalks, the little bridge there on the causeway. If money's no object, make things feasible to where people can get to and from. Handicap accessibility to our beaches, people in wheelchairs and crutches and everything. Make it to where it's no problem for them to get down to the beach. If money's no object, then we wouldn't have no problems. We wouldn't have anything to have to solve because that would already be solved.
Okay. Mr. Brinkley?
I wish that was the case, that money was not an option, but, having unlimited funds, but that's not the case, and I know the board has to be fiscally responsible with the taxpayers' dollars, but much like Mr. Sawyer said, you could solve a lot of problems. All the stormwater issues we've got, you could get them all done, you'd have unlimited funds. Our multi-use paths, we could have done them all at one time. We wouldn't need funding to do it. We wouldn't need to wait for grants and different fiscal years to be able to fund them. The best of everything that the town could offer. But that's what I have. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And Renee, Renee.
Thank you. Wow, what an open purse would do. As Kevin said, stormwater projects could get done in a series of a year or 2 years instead of over a series of 10 years. I'd buy lots of vacant land, both on the ocean front, between the highways, as collectors for some of the stormwater to go into, as well as land that could be given over to some of the nonprofits to provide for maybe workforce housing. There's lots of different things that we could do to benefit our community, but the reality is we don't have an open pocketbook, and we have to figure out what are the priorities are that benefit our citizens.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Gallup.
To all the candidates, what is each of your visions for the totality of the Soundside event site? And does your vision include the Pamlico Jack site?
Okay, this time we're starting out with Mr. Brinkley.
Courtney, thank you for the question. The event site, I was with the town when the town acquired it, and you look at the events that we're able to have, the festivities that they're able to, that event is able to host, and it's really been a great site. Since I've left the town, I know that they've acquired additional properties and have plans, I've read in the news, to expand and do other things. People that I have talked to while I've been out campaigning, talking to people in the community, they like the event site, but what I've heard is they like to see the sound front. They like to see the sound, they like to see the landscape. They don't want a big building blocking that view. Now, does that mean that we can't have a pavilion there that may be able to host indoor events? No, I think you could do that. But what's important is the people that I've talked to, and again, it's something that where you preserve the landscape the way it is. Still fully support the event site and what they do, and want to be a good partner with the Tourist Bureau as they look to develop that site.
Ms. Cahoon.
The town currently owns a 17% stake in the event site. We used some of our money to help the tourism board at the time purchase the site in order to preserve it, because the opportunity may never arise again to acquire that large piece of property. The vision is, in many ways, has evolved over the number of years. It called for a building. There was a lot of community input that said they wanted to keep it more low impact, low development. And I think the tourism board is in the process of going through that evolution again, of trying to figure out. I think whatever is done has to be done within the town work frame of ordinances. We don't allow a lot of high-rise buildings. We don't allow parking decks. So whatever vision comes forward would have to fit within the current framework of ordinances, unless a board or future board decided to change those. And right now, the vision of Nags Head is not to have a superstructure type of building. So I would think that as it goes forward, we will see what the tourism board comes up with. Every town has a representative on the tourism board, along with different units of government as well as nonprofits. So my vision is more, my vision, if I could have my say of what it would be, if that's what you're asking, would be a building that probably had a lot of glass in it that you could see through right onto the sound in perpetuity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sawyer.
I'm glad that the town of Nags Head was partnered with the tourism board to develop the sound side event location there. But to put a high-rise there or a parking deck of anything like that right there, I think it would be a disgrace to the town. It would take away from Nags Head's vision. To incorporate something else along with it, such as the restaurant or them purchasing the restaurant, I think they need to back away from that. I think it's an event site and it should be used for that. There's no use in spending any more money. Let the tourism board take care of the money issue for the town of Nags Head. We've got to draw some sort of tax base off of that property one way or another. If the town and the tourism board buys Pamlico Jacks, that's taking that business out of the tax base to some extent. And it's not helping the local economy any at all, unless it's going to be a big draw to it. I'm like Kevin there, as far as the sound, the landscape, that's what it's there for, to enjoy that landscape. Make some sort of sports avenue there that can enjoy kayaking, fishing, kites, surfing. But that would be my vision, to leave it no further than where it's at right now. Don't go adding any more restaurants or anything else. But if there was a building to be built, have it where there would be glass where you could see through and see the landscape. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Williams? And then Courtney, you're next again.
It's almost the same question. I'm Lori Williams. I actually live in Southern Shores. I have actually heard today that the county has purchased the Pamlico Jack property, and I think they already own the Dairy Queen property. Has Nags Head been involved with this, and what is going to be done with those lands?
Ms. Cahoon, you're first.
Well, that would be news to me, and for those of you that are under the impression that Nags Head is involved in this process, we're not. We're a 17% partner, as I said earlier. Any money that would be expended for any other properties, including the Dairy Queen, has been expended by the Tourism Board. That they do not have to come to the town of Nags Head to make purchases, because we're not a partner in this venture. Our only partnership was helping to preserve the land to begin with. But we are not involved in any of the future purchases or current purchases. If they purchased Pamlico Jacks by now, I'd be really shocked, because they have only just started their process of what they're trying to do through their consultants and the members of a steering committee to get input to decide whether to go forward. So I can't speak to any purchases because I don't know anything about it, and the town of Nags Head is not involved in any of those purchases. Thank you.
Mr. Brinkley?
Thank you for your question. I know that the town, just like Ms. Cahoon said, that we were a partner with the Tourist Bureau when it was originally purchased. After that, the town has been a partner, but any other purchases of any other land, the Dairy Queen, the town was not involved in. I hadn't heard about the Pamlico Jacks, if that is truly happened. I know that I read it on the news that what they have done, that they had done a study about several different phases, that different construction options, and one of them was acquiring the Pamlico Jacks. But beyond that, I'm not sure.
Mr. Sawyer?
I'm pretty much in the dark about that issue, other than what I read in the paper that the tourism board wanted to purchase Pamlico Jacks, but I hadn't heard anything through the grapevine or seen anything in black and white that said that they had purchased it. And there was studies that the tourism board was in line to do, and whether or not they have completed it with any public notices or public hearings being held in regards to that fact, I have no knowledge of.
Okay. And we'll go into the next question, Ms. Gallup.
To all the candidates, if you are elected to the Board of Commissioners, will you grant the Nags Head Police Department full support to cooperate with ICE and other federal mandates to control illegals in the Nags Head workforce? You're all business owners, and I would like a direct response to the question. Thank you.
Okay. This time we're starting with Mr. Sawyer.
To answer your question, yes, I'd support the police department 100%.
Ms. Cahoon.
I'm not going to give you a yes or no answer, Courtney, because I don't know enough about what the ramifications are and what the agreements are between ICE and police departments. I support our police department in the work they do. I support our government in the work they do. And as far as our local agreements, I can't comment without having to read what it says. I like to know all the details before I start working on agreements.
Okay, Mr. Brinkley.
Thank you for the question. With my background in law enforcement, when I'm thinking about, does the board support us, the board from day one to the day I retired, the Nags Head Board of Commissioners have always supported the police department. What mutual aid agreements the police department has with other organizations, I mean, we've got mutual aid with the Park Service, we've got a mutual aid with Kildover Hills. I don't see any other issue. If somebody is wanted and there's a warrant for their arrest, there's a detainer, they're going to be arrested and taken to the Dare County Detention Center. I'm not aware of the board ever trying to interfere with any of our mutual aid agreements with organizations. So it wasn't a yes or no, but I don't know that, I don't think it's ever been a problem. And we've arrested people for detainers like that before. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Edwards.
How y'all this evening?
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor.
Had to get away from this hypothetical down to some real work. We left some business undone when I left here, and I just wanted to ask you a question about it. Do you propose to continue funding the multi-use path along 168? And if so, what sequence of construction would you propose to do?
Mr. Brinkley.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Edwards. One of my top priorities when I was thinking about the town and what's important to me is pedestrian and bicycle safety, and with that comes our multi-use paths. So yes, I would want to continue our multi-use path. I know that there was been an issue or a question about how we go from Hollowell Street around Jockey's Ridge. Having not been on the board and been involved in any discussions, I'm not sure where they're at with that process, but I do know that they have, I believe it's funded for this coming fiscal year, that they're going to continue the bike path somewhere south of that area, south of Jockey's Ridge, if I remember correctly. But I'm a full supporter in continuing on multi-use paths. We've got to do something to keep people safe. And along with that comes the Little Bridge. The Little Bridge is a nightmare, and I know that members of the current board are working diligently to try to do something with that and with DOT. Thank you for your question.
Mr. Sawyer.
Yes, I would agree that we should continue on with our multi-use paths, and we should also increase other areas of safety for our residents and our tourists that are here. And multi-use paths, it is a very touchy situation to some extent in some of the areas where you're having to deal with, especially there at the Little Bridge, the multi-use paths with that bridge and crossing the road is a nightmare, you know. And yes, we do need to continue on with those projects and the funding of those projects.
Okay. Ms. Cahoon.
Thank you, Mayor. The answer to your question, yes, we are continuing. I was here when we built the first multi-use path in South Nags Head, and everybody said it couldn't be done. Everybody was complaining about how many driveway cuts and different things, but currently, to be specific, we have in this current year budget a multi-use path that will start from the post office and go towards the Outer Banks Mall. Then another phase will go from the mall down to the event site and Gull Street, where we have a crossover with a stoplight over to the beach road. But yes, the current plans and the current funding call for continuing on. And my vision has never changed, which was to have a multi-use path go from bridge to bridge as you entered Dare County and as you left Dare County. It just takes a long time to do it and a lot of money. But we've been fortunate through a series of grants over the years and putting in place a dedicated tax stream for parks and paths. We just got through with Dowdy Park working on those, and this year's project is the multi-use path. So yes, it is to continue forward, and my hope is to fund it every year as we go forward.
Okay. This was a question submitted that asked me to read it. No. What are your ideas for addressing sea level rise? And we will start with Ms. Cahoon.
That's quite a big subject. Most people, when I think of sea level rise in our area, I don't think of the ocean front, because that's not the first place that we're seeing it. We're seeing it on our estuarine shoreline, and for those that don't believe there's sea level rise, whether it's subsidence, we are observing it. Our estuarine shoreline is either subsiding or sea level rise is rising, whatever you want to call it. But I think we have to change the way we have infrastructure. I think when we do infrastructure, we have to think 100-year projects, not 5-year projects or 10-year projects. I think as we work through our zoning and building, we have to build up. I don't think we should be allowing necessarily ground floor enclosures and so forth. We should be encouraging people to build higher up. With that, if we're going to continue to live on this barrier island, we have to think that we're just not going to be able to build right up to the edge of the water. So I think we have to do that. I think we also have to look at pretty much probably at some point change our septic systems. We're a community that doesn't have central sewage. We have septic systems, and we're going to have to start looking at innovative technologies to encourage people to replace septic systems, because quite frankly, our groundwater is also rising. We see that with the amount of flooding that is occurring in our communities. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Sawyer.
To me, the sea level rise, yeah, how fast is it occurring? It's a timing factor. And is it rising? Yes, it is rising. Is it rising more on the ocean side or the rivers and sounds and estuaries area? It's raising more and quicker on the end streams in the rivers and the sounds and the estuaries than it is on the ocean side. But it does, the infrastructure has an effect of the sea level rise as well too, as well as the groundwater. If the infrastructure that was put in 50 years ago isn't working anymore now, you got to correct that before you start working on the infrastructure on the latter end of it. Is that going to help sea level rise? No, it's not. It'll help some, but the point is you're going to have to back away from the ocean to some extent, or back away from the shorelines, and you're going to have to build up. The septic systems, they're going to have to change as well too. The size of the lots are going to have to increase as far as size-wise is concerned instead of decreasing. The lot size needs to be larger so that it can accept the drainage. So it's a big issue that we're going to be faced with in the years to come, and we're going to have to address it head on. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brinkley.
I'm going to be quite honest with y'all. I've read a little bit about sea level rise, but to be able to sit here tonight in front of you and talk like I know what I'm saying, I'm just going to cut to the chase. I don't know. If I'm elected, though, I will work with the other board members to try to come up with innovative ideas of what we can do to address it. I'm sorry I don't have a better answer. I'm just not haven't done the research on that and able to give you an answer, and I don't think it's good for me just to sit up here and ramble. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay, well, there's a card, there's There's cards here, and please fill out the cards. While we're waiting, I would break out into song, but I think we would empty the room very quickly. So we will wait for the cards. Is everybody okay up there? Do you need more water or anything?
Thank you.
Coquetta, yes. As soon as I saw the bottom, I knew. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
Hey Renee, I haven't seen you in forever. Good to see you and to the other candidates that are running. And I have met Mr. Brinkley before, and Mr. Sawyer. My question is, since we were discussing sea level rising, and as a person that's been impacted by a storm and had flooding, what is the plan moving forward to start addressing ditches and culverts that hold water prior to it being storm time? I mean, what are we doing to move forward with areas that are prone to flooding all the time, year after year after year? When are we going to start moving forward with addressing it, like in the spring, when it's dry, as opposed to trying to address it now? Thank you.
Mr. Sawyer,
The drainage, subsurface, surface, groundwater. You can't wait. Normally when ditching and grass waterways and all are installed, there should be a maintenance program. And 99% of the time, when you design these ditching and waterways, then there's a maintenance plan that goes along with it. That maintenance plan's got to stay up to date. That means every year, not wait 5 years or 10 years or wait until there's some funds. That's done beforehand. If it's not done beforehand, it's not going to do any good, because sediment's going to build up in the ditches, and you can replace the culverts all you want. But if the ditch, the sediment has built up, and the water can't get in through the culverts to get out, culverts it's not your problem. It's the sediment that's built up in the ditch. So you got to keep that maintenance going from day one. Time you install the systems in, and they've got to continue on with keeping the maintenance up. And it's not just on a yearly basis, but it needs to be, or a 5-year basis, it needs to be every year. That maintenance program needs to be addressed with every one of those ditching and grass waterways and culverts, and stay on top of it. And that's part of the infrastructure. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Mr. Brinkley,
Thank you, sir. Stormwater has been an issue for many years. 2 years ago, when there was a candidates forum, stormwater was a really hot topic then. And the town has done some great projects that has improved some areas, but there's still work to be done. I think it was 2 years ago, the town increased the stormwater fees that they would collect. They're collecting now 2 cents on our taxes to be able to put more money towards stormwater projects. The town has done a Red Drum, by Red Drum Restaurant, and NC12 has done a project there. They've also done NC12 by the Village, right out here in front, and has also completed a project in Nags Acres. So I think that the town is doing the projects. It's like Ms. Cahoon said earlier, if you had an unlimited budget, you could do them all over a couple of years, but it's going to take time. I think the town is trying to play catch up now for all the years that maybe that the projects were not done. Being proactive in the cleaning, the lady that asked the question talked about doing something in the springtime. We don't need to wait until hurricane season before we make sure our ditches and culverts are cleaned. And I believe that the current board funded a position for stormwater maintenance in this budget that was just passed. I think the town is doing that now and doing a better job. But we haven't solved all the problems yet. There's still work to be done. But anyway, I agree with you, and it's got to be proactive. You got to be able to do it all throughout the year, not just before a storm. Thank you.
Ms. Cahoon.
Thank you. You're right, maintenance needs to be done, well, maintenance needs to be done all year round. It doesn't need to be before hurricane season because that lasts for 6 months of the year, but it needs to be done all year round. In the last budget, we bought a new culvert cleaner so we can go in and start cleaning out culverts on a regular basis and not depend on DOT's culvert cleaner or anybody else's, but to have our own. So we're doing that on a regular basis. We did replace piping at the Red Drum, and we've also been connecting stormwater systems as much as the state will let us because of the amount of runoff, because we're having to use their systems. The ditches along 158 and NC 12 belong to the state of North Carolina DOT, but we're forming agreements with them to go in and loop those systems as much as we can, because one neighborhood may drain better than the other, so we've been going along both Memorial, Wrightsville, 158, putting our stormwater systems in place so that we'll loop to the areas where we can get them out to the ocean through our outfalls. We have about 4 outfalls in the town of Nags Head, from one end of the town to the other. So we are working to do that. We have on the plan when DOT, if they get the money to replace 158, as they were supposed to do this fall, and they've now put it off for a while. But we are in the process of working with them to fund culvert replacements underneath that road so that west side neighborhoods drain back and forth to where they need to go to get rid of them out of our systems. But maintenance is a big one, but we've been buying equipment like culvert cleaners and other pieces to go in and clean out the ditches and try to keep things safe. The other thing I would encourage people to do is leave their swales alone. Everybody wants to have a really nice yard that goes all the way to the street. Leave the swale there. It's part of the stormwater system. It helps drain your neighborhood and your own property. So please leave the infrastructure that's there in place.
Thank you. Mr. Burback.
I'm Bob Burbeck. I live in Nags Head. I read in the Coastline Times that Dare County, and I guess that means the Tourism Bureau, wants to buy Nags Head interest in the site as well as Pamlico Jacks. Are you willing to sell that? Because it seems if you do, you lose control over what could possibly happen there. This for all candidates.
Mr. Brinkley, you drew the short straws.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your question, sir. It's my understanding that the town has offered for the Tourist Bureau to buy out their part. That's just what I've heard, whether or not that's true or not. If that does happen, I don't think we own such a small percentage. I don't think that that's going to take us out of making decisions of what can go there. Anything that they build there still has to go in with our zoning ordinances and our planning. So I'm not uncomfortable with, if I was on the board, I wouldn't be uncomfortable with getting reimbursed for our 15 or 17% that we invested initially. And I still believe that we would have control over what can be built. When I say control, we can, through our zoning ordinances, can see what goes there. Thank you.
Ms. Cahoon.
Well, yes, I am in favor of the town selling its interest, because as a 17% partner, we're not going to decide what's going to happen anyway as a minority partner of that small interest. I'd like to have the money back so we could reinvest it in our town to do other things, be it walkways, be it more stormwater. Being a partner is not a bad thing. We did what we thought was right at the time, and I think now, through evolution of the time, it's time to perhaps redirect our funds. But it will be up to the tourism board whether to buy us out or not. As they look through their process of how they're going to move forward, that will be part of the discussion.
Mr. Sawyer?
Yes, I would agree to allow the tourism board to buy our interest of the event site out 100%. And I would like for the town of Nags Head to take that money and reinvest it into our drainage projects and our multi-use projects that are ongoing at present time. That would help alleviate some of the shortfalls of the budget from time to time. It might not be a whole lot of money, but every little bit is a dollar saved, is a dollar earned. So, yes, I think it would be to the town of Nags Head's advantage to let them buy our interest out. And not only that, the tourism board would still have to go through the planning and zoning department and the town of Nags Head board to agree to any kind of building or anything that they were going to do with the property. So, yeah, I'd still be in agreeing to allow them to buy our interest out.
Thank you. Next question, I believe it's Halleck as the last name. Anita? Anita Halleck? I'm trying to read the Gallup. Courtney, Jesus. So, Courtney's going to ask a question about penmanship now.
This question is to all the candidates. And it's a matter of life and death. Nags Head population is rapidly aging. If you're elected, how much importance would you place on the development of a public cemetery in the town of Nags Head? That's an infrastructure question.
Don't take that question personal. Okay, Ms. Cahoon, you're first.
That's not a new concept to Nags Head. It's one that we've looked at over the course of years. We've looked at it on town-owned property. We've looked at what the pros and cons are of it. And at the time, we did not feel that it was in the town's best interest to expend our money that way. We felt we had a lot of other pressing issues on it. Do I agree we have an aging population? Yes, I'm one of them. So, but no, I don't, right now, I do not see it as one of our higher priorities.
Okay, Mr. Brinkley.
Thank you for your question, and I didn't know where you were going with it, but I haven't heard that before, that the town had considered it. Again, I think it would be something, do our residents want it? If during my campaign, I haven't heard anybody mention it to me, but that's not saying that it's, that it's not out there. But if it's something that, the citizens want, I think the town did explore it that one time, and it was not feasible at that point in time, but I don't think it's something that couldn't be brought up in the future. And if funds are available and it's higher up on the priority list, it could be done. Thank you.
Mr. Sawyer.
Yes, I am one of those that are in the aging population there, Outside of that, I really don't have no comment on it at this time.
Okay. Next question is Damien.
Good evening, everyone. Resident of Manteo, and the question I have for you all is, coming from the background with working with civil engineering and designing some of the projects like stormwater projects, wastewater, and other utilities, what kind of ideas do you have to help decline or kind of slow down the erosion control in NC12?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
What kind of ideas do you have to slow down the erosion control up here on the beach road? You have any plans, any thoughts?
Okay. The question was about erosion on NC 12. Mr. Sawyer, you're first this time.
There, I'm going to decline to answer
Okay.
at this time.
Ms. Cahoon?
I'm not sure about the erosion on NC 12 and Nags Head. We have places where it breaches at times with ocean overwash, but we have not breached the road that I'm aware of. 1243 in South Nags has a little bit different problem. We've had issues down there, and we will continue to have issues, which is one of the reasons we did beach nourishment, which was to extend the beach out and protect the infrastructure behind it, water lines, power lines, roads, as well as our property tax value. So short of beach nourishment, our options are kind of limited. We're prohibited from doing groins and offshore reefs that are within a certain feet of the ocean shoreline. The town of Nags Head can only, or any other town within the state, can only do certain things in the ocean or on the shoreline that we are granted the powers to do by the state of North Carolina. And while I think some offshore reefs would definitely help with our erosion, right now we don't have the legal authority to do it.
Okay. Mr. Brinkley?
Thank you for your question, sir. I can think of back to the early and mid-'90s when we would have storms, even nor'easters, not hurricanes. The flooding on 1243 Oregon Inlet Road would be terrible. And like Ms. Cahoon said, where we still have areas that may overwash now, beach nourishment has helped out a great deal. Not only does it help, it helps keep our infrastructure safe, also with the tax value of these houses that are there as well. So I'm not familiar with any other plans to control erosion. I just know that since we've had beach nourishment in Nags Head, it's been much better than we had before we had it. And again, I'm certainly well aware of the rules and regulations that the state of North Carolina places on municipalities and what they can do on the ocean side. And working within those confines, I think, sometimes can be difficult. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the questions we have up here. Unless any of the employees want to ask about raises. We will now go to the closing remarks, candidates' closing remarks. And Mr. Brinkley, I believe you go first.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I've enjoyed answering your questions. I would like to also thank the League for hosting this event. When I was asked early on in my campaign, why are you running? You just retired. You're jumping out of the frying pan into the fire. Can't tell you the number of times that I've been asked that. Working at the town of Nags Head was an honor and a privilege. And I could honestly say from that first day in 1990 and to that last day, August the 29th or 30th of 2018, I enjoyed my career. I didn't even look at it as a job. It was a great place to work. It's a great place to live. And I know that our visitors enjoy coming here. I've been a lifelong public servant. Nags Head is all that I've ever known. Didn't grow up in Nags Head. I was across the bridge. But as Ms. Cahoon has sometimes said, I now live over in God's country. So Nags Head is near and dear to my heart. The town is not broken. It's not in need of radical change. I'm passionate about being responsive to the people. I've enjoyed getting out and talking to our citizens, to our business owners, and I think that's important for a commissioner to do that as well. Just because you're elected does not mean that you don't go out into the community anymore. If I'm, as a commissioner, making decisions based on something that may affect you, I think you need to have a say-so in it. Again, I thank you for coming. My phone number, 252-599-1475. I had it out on my Facebook page since the day that I announced. I look forward to meeting you in the future if I have not already done so. Again, I thank you and ask for your vote and support on November 5th. Thank you.
Ms. Cahoon.
Thank you. Once again, thank you all for attending, asking questions, and listening. It has been an honor to serve you as Commissioner of Nags Head. and I hope that you will consider voting for me either through early voting or here in this building on November 5th. My hope is to represent all of our citizens and do the best job that I can, working with you, the citizens, and the other board members to move our town forward, to meet our issues and challenges head-on is my goal. We need to work for a better tomorrow because the challenges are never going to end. The most important thing, however, that I can ask of any citizen is to vote, be involved in your government, serve on the boards, come out. Democracy only works when everybody participates in our system. Thank you.
Mr. Sawyer.
I'd like to take the opportunity to thank each and every one that came out tonight. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for initiating this evening. I have spent 3/4 of my life here in Nags Head. I've lived in Nags Head now for over 12 years. I spent my teen years surfing on the coastline here in Nags Head. Used to sleep in pup tents on the ocean side years ago. That was before there was Dowdy Amusement Park. It was when there was just a Dowdy Amusement Park. That's what it was, an amusement park, go-kart track. That's where I worked in the summer. I'm passionate about the town of Nags Head. I have served on the Nags Head Beach Nourishment Committee twice, both in 2011, 2018. And I've seen the changes. I've seen the changes of the flooding that occurs on Old Oregon Inlet Road. And I drive up and down that every day, back and forth, checking houses, looking at things. And there's a lot of challenges that the town of Nags Head faces. And I'm willing to work with the rest of the board members in meeting those challenges and facing those challenges head on. And I think we can do great things, and I would appreciate your vote. And if I'm elected to serve as your commissioner, I'll do my best job as possible to serve for you. Thank you.
Thank you. We wish to thank the candidates for their participation and their voters for their attendance and questions. We want to thank the town for their use of their meeting room and for videotaping the event. We will post a video on our website, www.lwv, that's for League of Women Voters, dare.org, and on our YouTube page. Dare County and Current TV channel will be broadcasting this at a later date. We do not have the dates right now. Vote 411. This year we have asked all the candidates in Dare County to participate in the League's online voter guide called vote411.org. This is a one-stop shop website that voters may access on their phone or on their PC, their iPad. You key in your address and you can view the candidate information, their philosophy statement, social media links, and their responses in their own words. Some of them even have put pictures on it. to questions we posed. This is a really good website. It is a national website by the League of Women Voters. It's not just local, it's nationally. And during the future elections, you could actually go on the website and see the opinion of national candidates as well as state candidates. So it's really a good website. Future forums, Southern Shores Forum will be Monday, October 7 at 7 p.m. at the Pitt Center. Kill Devil Hills Forum will be Tuesday, October 8th at KDH Town Hall. The Manteo Forum will be Wednesday, October 9th at the Manteo Commissioners Meeting Room. Also on Sunday, I forgot the date, but on Sunday, October 13th, Kitty Hawk is having a meet and greet. They are running unopposed. The two candidates there are running unopposed, so there will be no forum, just a meet and greet and cookies. We encourage you to join us to strive democracy work. League of Women applications are at the information table, and we also have voter registration information at the table as well as registration. Probably everybody in here, my guess is you're registered to vote. But you may have somebody that's 18 years old that you know, somebody in high school, somebody that is a neighbor. Give him a registration form. They're back there, and democracy works only by voting. And we appreciate it, and thank you so much for coming, and have a good night. Good evening.